What if the best thing you could do for your business was to step away from it? That's what Pro Collective co-founder Gail Doby learned when she took her first of several sabbaticals a few years ago. Listen to the full episode today to find out why Gail believes that these periodic breaks are essential for visionary leaders if they want to spark creativity and empower their teams.
Well, Gail, it is great to finally get to podcast together again. It's been a minute for our listeners since we've been on together.
Well, we both had a lot of things going on in 24, and now it's 25, and it's a new year and a new face. You're leading the podcast this year, which is great. So it's fun to be a guest for a change.
All right. Well, I love it. And we've got you all set up in your new office setting. And so I'm loving your background. I'm still sticking to my very plain vanilla background for the moment, but you are inspiring me to switch up my background.
It's just a paint can. I will buy you a can of paint.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. Okay, so let's, I want to talk today on the topic of sabbaticals, the idea of sabbaticals, how you know when it's time, what it does for you as the business owner. I just think it's such an interesting topic to uncover. And since you have done sabbaticals for a couple of years now, you're the perfect person to talk to about this.
Yeah, it's an annual event now, and it's actually going to be twice this year, and maybe from now on. You never know.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't wait.
You're just ready for me to go away.
Oh, no, I didn't say that out loud. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so let's start off with what inspired you to take a sabbatical, and how did you really know it was the right time?
Well, let me start with what a definition of sabbatical is. I think that would be useful because a lot of people don't know what it really is. And most of the time, people think of it when it's related to somebody who's a college professor. And the word it's actually from Hebrew, sabbat, which means a rest or break from work. And so in the arena of education, a lot of universities at 5 or 7 years will give a professor a year off so that they can do research and they can do study and they can work on writing papers and things like that are necessary, doing research, traveling, going somewhere. So there are many reasons that people do sabbatical. And I was looking at some of the different definitions this morning, just getting ready for this. And here's one that says an extended period of time intentionally spent on something that's not your routine job. And so when you all as a team, when I was talking to you about sabbatical and said I wanted to go on my first one, I know you all thought I was crazy because I said, well, I have some projects I want to work on. But that's exactly what you get to do is choose what is the reason for having a sabbatical. And I've had 4. And I'm preparing for my 5th one. So I am starting to think about what that's going to entail. And each one has been completely different. So to go back to your first question, which is, how did I know that it was time to do a sabbatical, is because I was starting to think about preparing succession for the business, preparing the leadership team to be able to take on the business and run it while I was gone. Mm-hmm. And I knew and I felt it in my bones that it was really essential for you all to have a break from me for a while and to have to take on the responsibility that I carried that was unseen. So a lot of us as CEOs of the business, we're doing so many things behind the scenes that you all don't know. You have no clue what we're working on day to day. And the only way you're going to ever feel that is for us to be away. And so instead of taking a break that was maybe unplanned, like being sick or having an illness in the family or something like that, I decided that it was time for me to start bringing that into the company so that I was preparing you all for your future leadership roles.
Well, and I love that. And I do think that maybe the sabbatical could have even been the ticket to keep away the illness, right? Like, had you not taken breaks, then that could have been a thing that then you would have had to have been out of the business. I'm not saying that you've had any health issues, you haven't, but like, that's also always something like, the hit by the bus theory, right? That we talk about in our planning. But what I do love about those definitions that you shared of sabbatical, the two words that really ring true to me are intentional and rest. So even though you are working on projects, you have a different rhythm to what you're doing during that time. So I really can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So how far in advance? I know we really did think you were crazy at first when you wanted to do your first sabbatical. And now we're like, when's she going on her next one? Right.
Yeah, please go.
Because we're ready. And we also love the product that comes from the sabbaticals, both in how you are able to come back rested and creative and really excited for the next part of the journey. So how far in advance did you actually start planning those sabbaticals, or, your first one?
Okay. So the first one, I thought about it for about 2 years, but a year out is when I came to you all and said, okay, I want to do a sabbatical and it's going to happen. And it was literally a year. And so I gave you that heads up and that notice because I knew that I also had to prepare myself, and I had to prepare the business, and I had to prepare you for what was going to happen. And you know me, I'm a big planner, and I work on things way ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So in my case, I knew that I had to prepare a lot of work that needed to be done so that I wasn't not working or not getting the things done that I would have gotten done had I been working. Mm-hmm. So it took a lot of intentional work to get all of the things prepared so that podcasts were done, articles were written, planning was done. A lot of things were in place so that I had that freedom to actually take the break that I needed to have. Mm-hmm. So the first sabbatical, I actually read the most, and I read 21 books that sabbatical, and I was off 5 weeks. And so for me, 5 weeks is enough. I'm not taking a year like a college professor would do. And so for me to take 5 weeks off, I've never done that in my entire life. And usually if I took a vacation, the longest I would take is 2 weeks. So 2 weeks barely gives you enough time to come down off of the high of work and then get calm enough that you can have a different mindset during that sabbatical period of time. So for me, 5 weeks was pretty interesting. So I took a week of vacation first, and I don't remember where I went on the first one, but anyway, I took a week of vacation. And then after that week of vacation, I came back and just started working on projects, and I started reading. So every single bit of the reading that I did was pivotal for the next year. And so for me, and we've talked about this a lot. I know you and I've chatted about it, and Kristen has, about the fact that where I get my ideas is from reading and from classes. Mm-hmm. And so when I have the opportunity to read and think and just go into my little shell, because I like my little bubble, I like to be able to sit at my computer, and I literally will sit down with an open document and just start writing. And I'll start thinking about things. And so for me, I guess I'm a little bit of an introvert in that way. I like to have that quiet time and that thinking time. And I like really long blocks of time because I can work in long blocks of, 6 to 8 hours where I can get a lot of reading done, or I can be writing all day and write articles all day long. And so for me, I like to have those big chunks so that I can get deep into whatever I'm doing, and I'm not getting distracted, and then it takes me another several days to get back to it. If you can do sequential work like this, it is incredible how much you can get done. So anyway, that first sabbatical was a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. And I know when I came back, I drove you all crazy.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So I do want to make a note to all the listeners that reading really is fuel for you.
Yes.
That's not for everybody, right? Like we all have to read and be informed and continue our education. But as of Gail Doby in the core of who you are, reading really does fuel you. Mm-hmm. And so that was a natural first step for you in that first sabbatical.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's get back to preparing the team, because we really were like, guys, she's not going to do this. Like, come on. And that was, what year was that? That was 2022?
Well, it's been 5 years, so it's 2020.
Oh dear. Gosh. Well, that went by quickly.
Yeah. There you go.
We were like, okay, she's saying she's going to do this, but like, she's probably not going to do it. And like, as we were, 6 months out, you're like, guys, I'm taking the sabbatical at the end of the year. And then we were, 90 days out, we're like, she's really going to do this. And you're like, I really am doing this. And then we're like, oh shit, like this is really happening. So, I think that it was such an opportunity for our team to step up, and for you to empower us in that way. But what are some of the things that you really needed to make sure that year that our team was prepared for you to be gone?
Well, this is a big one. And this is kind of the beginning of that transition plan and that succession plan before I had officially announced the succession plan, right? Mm-hmm. So this is me saying, okay, you are responsible for making sure the bills are paid, that we have income coming in, that we have contracts signed, that the sales are happening without me. And it was a time when I was out of that picture, and it was on all of you to be able to do the things that I used to be doing, which was driving the sales, driving a lot of the things that were part of just operating the business. And then also it's just making sure that there was coverage and that the clients were okay and that they knew what was going on and that they were informed. And I was letting them all know, hey, this at the end of the year, I will be off. So we will work around that. But I just want you to know that we're not leaving you in the dark. Mm-hmm. So all of you had to be there to take care of the year-end completion things. How do you complete the year? How do you make sure all of the, the final planning is done, that next year's planning is done? All of these things had to be in place before I could feel really comfortable taking that time off. And I will admit readily that I was still lurking and stalking you all on Slack.
Oh my gosh. I need to just make a note of this, team. Yeah. She is actually admitting to that.
Oh yeah. I was watching Slack. I was watching what was going on. And every once in a while I couldn't help myself. I would have to say something. And I remember getting chastised many times by you and Kristen and everybody saying, you're off. You're not supposed to be here. Just go away. Yeah. We got this under control. And it was kind of funny though, but when I got back, I certainly got an earful about how hard it was. And I heard how stressed you all were with me being off, because I think what happened, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think for the first time, you all realized that I trusted you enough, first of all, that I could take that time off. And that you really had to step up and make the decisions without me, because this was me saying, okay, I want to see how much you all can take charge of this without me being here to tell you what to do or to make those decisions. I wanted you all to step up and show me what you
know. And I mean, we were making decisions. We just weren't making all of the decisions. And I do think that it was the beginning of many lessons for me in moments. And I still kind of every month or two have this happen where, as I continue to grow in my role in the business, where I'm like, oh my God, like this is why Gail used to do this. This is, this way. And I'd be the recipient of that decision or that idea. And then I'd have to go figure out how to do it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why she was thinking that way. Or like, oh my gosh, now I know why, I always wanted everything to be like, it's either A, B, or C, right? And you were always like, well, what about like XXX over here? That could be a possibility, And I'm like, where did that come from? And now that I am more in the shoes that you were in those moments of the business, I'm like absolutely understanding that, because I'm like, oh, well, guess it's going to look a little bit different. It's not quite all black and white in the perfectly tied box, perfect bows on the boxes that in the world that I used to live in. So that was absolutely kind of the catalyst of the beginning of that journey of, I guess, for me, better understanding you not only as a person, but as the visionary and the owner of the business. And so it was a gift, but it didn't necessarily feel like a gift at the time because I was like, gee, pulling my hair out a couple of times, and then we obviously always want to make sure that you are, what's the word? Proud of the team and that we're continuing to accomplish and move toward the goals for the business and the overall vision of the company. So,
well, and I think too, I would add to that it was important for me to see a shift to an owner's mindset, because you and I are coming up on 20 years of working together too, which is massive. That is usually a very unusual situation. Mm-hmm. And so for 20 years of working together, you've grown from being an intern for me in my design business to now co-founder and VP of sales and marketing. And so that's a very big step in your growth. And now you understand, because you're every day responsible for making sure that we have a pipeline and that we have the business that we are trying to build. And so it's a completely different mindset than just being there to show up for work every day and do a job. Not that you've ever been completely that way, but what I'm saying is it shifts, because then you start thinking about what I'm thinking about, and you're thinking about cash flow, and you're thinking about all those things that become the daily mindset for the owner of the business, because we are responsible for a team. We understand that we're responsible for the happiness of our team and for the culture of our business. And we have so many pressures on us as owners. And the good and the bad is as you step up as a leader, you now get to share in that with me.
Yes. Well, and I mean, I think some people are just natural born leaders, right? But then to get to grow in your role and have the opportunity, and, the sabbatical was just it was almost like on Chutes and Ladders, when you can like go up the chute, right? Like you can completely skip a couple levels and just go up the chute. Those are the chutes that you've like put on the game board to allow for like expedited growth. And not just for me, but for our, for sure for our leadership team and our other team members. So thank you for that.
Well, it's been fun watching you all grow, because it's been about a year since I announced that you and Kristen were my successors. And so with that being the case, I gave you a lot more responsibility. You have access to the P&L and the balance sheet. You know what's going on financially in the business. I'm not the one developing the budget anymore. And I was the one doing that for many years. And so I have offloaded, not given up. I have offloaded, and I'm supervising what's happening, but I am not the doer of the tasks that I used to be.
Exactly. Well, let's get back to communication. So, you referenced that it was really important prior to the sabbatical that our clients were well communicated what they're hearing from you. And I was almost thinking it's almost like parallel to the story of like an interior design business owner having those, that stud senior designer or those stud team members that are going to really take the project and letting people know, like, you're in good hands. These are my people. I'm in communication with them. We're going to make sure that your project or your coaching, in our case, is continuing, and that you have access to all the tools and all of the guidance for your business while I'm away. And here is the way that they can get a hold of me. So it wasn't just like, oh, Gail's gone. Like she's on the desert island and she's gone for 5 weeks. There was a lot of communication, I think, with our team too, of just making sure that everybody, all bases were covered. But did you let's talk about communication with the team during the sabbatical, because you referenced how that was tricky for you, and it was tricky for us too.
Yeah. Well, and I admit it was a little hard because I was also not wanting to leave you all high and dry. So there was a part of me that was just being the business mom. And I admit that I do that. I'm a little bit of a mommer, and I can't help it because I don't want you all to fail. And it's not that I think I have to be involved, but I don't want to not be there if you need me. Right. So I just felt like I needed to be there a little bit. And part of it was just because I'd never had that experience of taking that complete break.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about my latest one in a few minutes, but I would suggest to you that this is a journey, because you have to learn how to let go as a leader. And I think I'm pretty decent at delegating. And I try really hard to just let go and not micromanage, because I did that in my other business. And I promised I would never do it again because it's just not healthy. And so if you can learn to let go and let people have responsibility and allow them to fail, because if you've got good people on your team, they're not going to fail. They may not do it the way you would do it. You have to be okay with that. And so just understand that this may be a process. And that's why I think it's so important for me to continue to take sabbaticals, because each sabbatical is going to help you all feel more confident with me not being there day to day.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say too is it really is based on trust, right?
It is
Trust in your team. And, even zooming back to 2020, it wasn't until just this last year in 2024 that I took over the revenue department. So you were taking a sabbatical when we didn't have quite as strong of a lead, if you will, in that role. I'm not trying to give myself kudos, but it has made a really big difference in the last 2 years of me taking over and having that really be a focus of my day to day. And so that was big. That was ballsy. It really was. I'm impressed. Okay. So as far as other business owners that are listening, I'm sure they're just like, oh my gosh, let's book the sabbatical right away. Right. They're probably like, how can I get this planned into my calendar right away? Because it sounds incredible. But what advice would you give them? I mean, we touched on the communication piece about stepping away from those client relationships for a period of time.
Well, your clients don't want to feel that they're being neglected, and that's really important. So making sure that you check in with them before you go, and making sure that you have touch base with them through the month or 6 weeks prior to you taking the break, and saying, hey, just remember, I'm going to be gone for this period of time. If it's really urgent, my team can get in touch with me. However, I will be gone during this period of time. And so for me, it's I leave at 5:00 the Friday before Thanksgiving, and I come back on the 2nd of January. And so during that period of time, which is about 5 weeks, I won't be in touch day to day, but I still want you to do your weekly reports and send them in. And I want
you are reading them.
I do read them. And for me, it's just more of, if there's something urgent, I hopped on a few phone calls over sabbatical because there were a couple of very urgent things that came up for some of my clients. So I did that, and I probably still will always do that, because I don't ever want to leave clients in the lurch, feel like they don't have access to me if it's something that they really need my opinion on. And that there are some really urgent things that come up.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I look at the communication with a team, I guess since it's been 5 years of sabbaticals, I'm still a little blown away that it's that. I look at it kind of as a dance, right? The first time you said that you were in Slack a lot, we were like, what are you doing in here? Let's kick her out. Let's get her out. You're supposed to be on break. And we were trying to make it very black and white. and it was almost kind of like that first dance of like kind of like stepping on each other's toes a little bit, because we're all there trying to do it, but we didn't quite know how to do that dance. And I feel like every year that you've taken a sabbatical, that dance has gotten a little bit easier, a little bit more of a flow. And you kind of know what part of the dance floor you're on, and we know what part of the dance floor you're on. And occasionally one of us goes in the middle and tries to do a little break dance, and one of us might react to that. But I think that it has taken time, just like in any relationship, of something new to see it evolve over time. So evolve in the types of projects that you're working on, evolve in the communication and the prep of the team, and what the team is bringing to the table while you're gone as well. So I know we've referenced a lot about the first sabbatical, but it certainly has gotten easier and I guess more interesting as they continue, right? And interesting in a good way, like interesting in the kind of problems that we're solving, making sure that we're meeting the goals by year end, especially since you're usually gone by year end, of the company, and that we're prepped for when you walk in the door in January, to make sure that we're ready to talk about and make sure that the goals for the new year are ready to go. Which it has moved up our planning time a lot, right? So we're always planning our year, an entire year in advance. And we usually start that in the first quarter, and just starting to look at those dates and all of that. And then usually it's by summer when the kids are out for school. It's usually when we have it pretty dialed in of, this is for the most part where we're going. These are the trips that are taking. Here's when Gail's going to be on vacation. Here's when she's going to be on sabbatical. And then from there, we can back up to all of our different boardroom events and the weekly rhythm and all of that. And so I think that it has moved up those decisions a little bit, because we also know that it's no longer going into December trying to put together a plan for the next year for our business. We're usually really proactively having a conversation in third quarter and in October, November, just for our annual planning session. We set that time aside. Yeah. So that has been interesting, and a little hard some years, I think, to move it up so early. But I think overall it's been very beneficial to just continuously trying to look further ahead into our business.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's the hardest for people who are in more of a task management role versus a vision role. Yep. Because I think a year to 5 years ahead, and for all of you, the rest of the team, and it's not a negative, this is what you have to do just to operate in your daily work. But you're looking at more of that anywhere from now to maybe 3 to 6 months, and usually not a year or so. And so this is pushing you all to start to see a bigger picture and see a broader framework that's necessary, because we don't move things on a dime. Some projects take a year, some projects take a year and a half, some projects are done that have started 4 years ago. So when we look at how long it takes to get big movements made in the business, it means that you have to plan farther back so that you get the result when you want it.
Right.
So that's what's so critical about the thinking process that changes for all of you who are on the leadership team during these sabbaticals, is you're starting to understand that I've definitely put a lot of thought way in advance, so that I'm not ever leaving the business waiting for me to make a decision. I've really been doing that prep work ahead of time for you all.
So let's talk about what you're doing during the sabbatical. So you mentioned the first year you read the 21 books. It felt like 56. I think I still have 56 in my brain, but it felt like 56. But you read 21 books. You went on some vacation. And so like, just talk to us a little bit about like how you decide and how you go about balancing rest, which tends to be kind of hard for the mold that we all come out of, especially interior design business owners, right? Like we are all just wired to like just keep hitting the pavement and getting it done. But how did you balance rest and personal growth and also your professional development during that time? And it doesn't necessarily have to be just based on year one, but in the different sabbaticals that you've had?
Sure. Well, and I also was writing during that when I was working on my first book. And so I was doing writing and I was doing reading. And then I took naps. I just rested and
Love it.
had a lot of great dinners out, and I had time with my husband. And so we had time because he's retired. And so at that point he'd been retired a couple of years, and he keeps asking me when I'm going to retire. He quit asking that actually about 2 years ago. And I said, I don't know. I just don't have an answer for that. And you all asked me that too. And I don't have an answer for it yet. So what I would tell you is that for me, rest is thinking. Rest is learning. Rest is engaging my brain. I am not a sit around and do nothing kind of person. Mm-hmm. And I'm always thinking. And maybe that's, I need to do a little less of that occasionally. But I really enjoy, I think it's just the mental challenge of growth, because to me, growth is an opportunity for me to not be just stagnant, because being stagnant would be boring to me.
Right.
So I'm thinking about all sorts of things. Like we've started this year talking about AI and really starting to implement that in our business. We need to always be thinking ahead, because our job is to be the leaders in the industry. That's our job. My goal is for us to be thought leaders and also be thinking about what's next so that we can help our clients succeed and be ahead of the curve too. And so to me, it's all about, if I keep learning and bringing my best effort toward learning, I'm enjoying it. It's fun for me. Mm-hmm. I like to learn. It's just me.
So did you have any surprising insights or revelations that you've gained during your sabbaticals, whether it was about a self or your business or your life?
I would say that it's not so much a new insight as more as a confirmation that a lot of the things that were in my way were things that were within me. And that I needed to have I needed the breaks. I needed that. I needed to quit that production, because you know me, I'm a machine when it comes to work, and it's hard for me to shut it off. And what I realized is I needed a little bit more space, because here's what happens, especially for somebody like me. I'm like wired as an entrepreneur, but I need that creative spark to be there. And the only way for creative spark to be there is for me to break my patterns of constantly being in a thinking, problem solving mode. So in order to be exceptionally creative and be prepared for pivots, which happen every 2 to 3 years in your business, you have to be flexible and you have to be ready to come up with new and fresh ideas. You need to look outside the industry and say, what is somebody else doing in farming that could be applied to our business? It's really looking at what else is working elsewhere that we could be applying to our business. And sometimes you just need to take that break so that you can pull back from the business long enough to see a different view, right?
Yeah. And I love the reference of sparking the creativity and really being able to show up and really, as a creative, to hear you talk about taking a break from problem solving, because we, a lot of times we have to use our creativity inside of the problem solving. And we are working that muscle every single day. So I guess just a little off topic here, but drafting off of that, what, for someone that is just listening to this and is like, oh my God, a sabbatical, that sounds amazing. And I have no idea when I can do it. And I'm completely overwhelmed in thinking about it. So what suggestions would you have for our interior design business owners today, that they could find those small little breaks of problem solving to have smaller moments of sparks of creativity, if they're not quite there or have a sabbatical on the calendar?
Well, and I've encouraged a lot of my clients, my coaching clients, to do this, is just block out a weekend where you're checking into a hotel, you're going to a spa, you're doing some things for you physically and spiritually and emotionally that support who you are. Take a break from your family, from your business, from everything. Just go away. Just find a long weekend.
So it's not like, oh, I'm just shutting down the laptop for the weekend and then I'm still at the soccer game and I'm going to the birthday parties and I'm still making all the dinners. It's like really just finding a spot for yourself to go and have that moment for a few days.
I have one of my clients that she did that last year, and I told her, I said, this is an order. This is a, I am telling you, you have to do this. You have to take a long weekend. And I said, go find a spot, go find a place, a hotel that's beautiful. And so she found one that was close by and she went for the weekend. She said, oh, I could have done that for many more days. And she got massages and she did yoga and she rested and she read a book and she just relaxed and totally turned her brain off from the day-to-day of the work. And I'm sure a little bit of that crept in. It always does. But start there. That's probably the best advice I could give you. And then the second thing I would tell you is I'm huge on time blocking, as you know. And we as a company start with whatever my personal time off is. So when I have sabbatical, when I'm going to take vacation, when I have a fifth week, that's a whole nother story. But when I'm going to take those times off, those are put on the calendar before we even put together our company calendar, which takes us months to work on. And we do it at least 6 months before the year starts. So we already have the next year is already blocked out by the middle of the year.
Yeah.
And we already know what's coming. So just pick your time. Just decide, when are you going to do this? And start small, start with a long weekend, and then maybe go from there up to 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks could be with family. But if you're going to do that, just find a way to make sure that you're totally resting on this trip. And then find a time somewhere down the road. And if you've been in your business, say 10 years or more, your time is now. Go do it.
Yeah.
And put it at the end of the year, because it's a natural break for most people to close for about 2 weeks for Christmas or a week and a half. Just tack on some days there. And then you've got some time off for Thanksgiving. That's why I do it right before Thanksgiving till January 2nd, because there are enough holidays in there that I'm just gluing some extra days in between that. And a lot of our clients are so busy right then, they don't have a lot of time to do anything else that I might want them to do. So they're just trying to close out the year and get ready to take their break. So that's the perfect time to take it. And maybe take 4 weeks the first time.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say is, even for those small moments to regain the creativity, it is finding ways to plan. It goes back to just the basics of like filling your cup first, right? Like you can't give your creativity, your gifts to the world if you're running on an empty tank. I know a lot of moms talk about that when it comes to their kids, you know, whether you are following the Miracle Morning and you've really dialed in what your morning looks like before everyone wakes up, and you kind of have had that time to get in the physical exercise, the spiritual piece of it, maybe some reading and some education, maybe some meditation. So those are all things that are small moments within our 24-hour day, but that we can have almost like the idea of like, okay, maybe we have to label it like, this is my mini sabbatical, which is an hour and a half for myself every morning. Okay. And then I'm also planning out a 3-day weekend. I mean, even just in this conversation, I'm like, I need to find a 3-day weekend for myself. I think, that I can just get away and kind of regain my creativity, for the business. So, okay. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we have what we call decision fatigue, and we all have it. And we have the capacity to make X number of decisions a day. Each person is different. And you're going to lose that capacity by midday. So to me, I'm a morning person anyway. And I wake up early I don't use an alarm. I just wake up. And so for me, I start my day with with meditation and then exercise. So I go do Pilates. So for me, I go do that. And I do not look at my emails and my Slack until later in the morning because I want peace of mind and I want quiet and I want my own reflection time. And if I don't have that time, I can feel it during the day because you need to be ready to start your day and have the capacity to make decisions. But if you're already getting hit with people telling you, oh, I need this or I need that or this is a problem, first thing of the day, then all of a sudden you're on edge because everything is, it's a fire and you're here.
Well, it makes you reactive, right? Like as soon as you tune into the Slack and the email, that's your first opportunity to be reactive.
Exactly.
And then that starts the fire drills and then that starts the overwhelm and it's just a catalyst. And I think some of us are addicted to it, right? Like, I think that some of us are just so used to it that it's almost like we crave it when it's not there, but there's so much freedom that you can find when you actually are setting some time aside in the morning. And I know like your morning and the amount of time that you can have before like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. looks very different than the mornings that like I have my kids. So I might be able to get in like an hour to myself before I'm getting people out of bed and making sandwiches and making sure that, you know, everybody's where they need to be. But then I also have mornings that I can get a little more rest or get some exercise in before I start my day. And so that's been hard for me because it changes. It's not always like just a set in stone thing, but that's also just probably a personality flaw for myself. So,
well, it's also a decision. It's a decision.
It is a decision. It is
right.
A decision.
So it's really not, we get to choose how we spend our time. And so when we make the decision that we are going to either rest or be productive, that's a choice. We get to make that choice.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so back to after the sabbatical, as we wrap up here, I do want to ask, what changes did you notice in your mindset or your leadership style after you returned from sabbatical?
Well, it just, you finally let go and you just say, okay, they've been doing it without me for 4 or 5 weeks. And I think they're just fine doing it. And every single time, and you know this about me anyway, I've been doing it for 20 years, but every year I'm giving more responsibility to the members of the team every year. Mm-hmm. And so each person is going to get more things that they're going to take on, like you're taking on podcasting now. Mm-hmm. And it's not that you weren't doing it, but I pitched in last year and did it because you were taking on a new role. So I wanted to help. So this year I said, okay, it's back to you.
Yep.
And so
we're doing it.
And you're doing it. And the thing is that's what gives you that confidence in knowing that you're capable of doing anything. So to me, my whole role, and as I am continuing to develop in my role as a leader, is my job is to mentor. My job is to teach the team and to provide the opportunities for growth for the team. And I can't do that if I keep holding on tight. So I have to let go. And every time I come back from sabbatical, I'm letting go a little bit more.
Yeah.
So every year there's a new change that comes in the new year because I have taken that break. And I want to talk for a minute about this last sabbatical because it was pretty different than the rest of them. And it was last summer, my husband and I went on vacation, and I came back and said to him a couple days later, I have 10 reasons we should be moving. And poor guy. And he said, okay, what are those? And I gave them to him and he said, you're absolutely right. Let's look for a house. And 3 days later, we had a contract. So we built a new house last year, nothing fancy. It's just a typical ranch house, and we built a full basement. And I just told him, I said, we're at that point in our lives. I really want this to be a house that we enjoy and that is not just plain vanilla, because we never painted any of the rooms at all. Mm-hmm. It all stayed the same builder beige color, which was terrible. Never liked the color. And I said, I'm not going to do it this time. We are going to do this and enjoy this house. Yeah. So by the time we'd gotten through the selections and the builder's building and all that stuff, I kind of waited until sabbatical to start doing the interior design work. And so I got so immersed in that. It was like a full-time job, just planning out everything so that I had everything scheduled. The move was in 2 phases, and I had boxes moved in, and then we'd unpack those, and then we moved the furniture in, and we're waiting for furniture. And now the contractor's down in the basement, building out our basement, and we're getting ready to landscape. So we've got all these things. I had to plan all that, and I did it in 5 weeks, basically. And then I had to get ready to move. Right. So during that 5-week period, it was probably the most detached I've ever been from the business. And I got a creative break in such a way that I got to struggle with paint colors for my house and rethink it about 10 times and make decisions on furniture and rugs and all those things, and really get completely immersed back in that end of the business. And I had no time to do any work. I didn't do any work for Pearl at all. I just took a complete break from it and worked on the house. And I went into that break knowing that that was going to be essential to do. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even remember how hard that job was.
I know. It's good. You're like right back into the coaching with people that you've been on the ground floor with them now again. And I'm sure that was a good muscle to bring back out. So were there some unexpected benefits to our company that resulted from your time away and your sabbaticals?
I think that's a good question. And I would turn that back to you. What were the benefits to you of me taking that break?
I mean, definitely there was a lot of professional and personal growth, I think, for our team during that time, specifically for me. And I think that Kristen would attest to that as well. Mm-hmm. I think we've also continued to, you always want to have the visionary of your company truly in the visionary role. And if you're in other roles, that isn't happening. So it's allowed us to find creative ways, for lack of it's not that we don't want you in things and doing things, but it's helped us be more resourceful and creative in figuring out solutions that don't include you. Because there was a time and a place in our business that if there was a problem or there was an issue, it wasn't Gail necessarily bringing the answer. It was Gail was the answer. Well, we'll offer Gail's time. We'll offer Gail to fix this. We'll offer Gail to look at this P&L, And I think that we've really gotten, or we'll offer an extra call with Gail or whatever. And I think that we really used the muscle more recently on just having other pockets of resources that we've developed that it's not reliant on you.
Well, and the fun part for me is I see the creativity that's coming. I just had a meeting right before this with talking about our boardroom retreat, and I'm not planning that boardroom retreat. Yep. I was there to be a part of it just for the content, but it was really great that the whole thing has been planned very well by Kimmy and Kristen and Patty, and I am there to do my role. But I'm really getting to play the role of the CEO and owner of the business, which is ideal and fun for me.
Love that. Okay, well, Gail, this has been incredible. I can't wait for more topics between the two of us because I know you and I can riff off of just pretty much anything. But what are 3 action items that you'd like to leave with our listeners today in regards to a sabbatical?
Well, first of all, believe that you can take a break. Believe that you need a break and plan the break. And those are the 3 things, just those 3 things, just get it on your calendar and just do it because you will be so thankful that you took the break. Whatever length of time you take, start small, get bigger, and your business will benefit as a result of it.
And it goes back to, is this day 1 or is this one day, right? Love that. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay.
After hearing Gail's wonderful sabbatical experience, we hope other business leaders are feeling inspired to take a much-needed break. It may seem impossible sometimes, but if you have a team you can trust and a need to refuel your creative tanks, some time away from your business may be just what you need to push it to the next level. Visit our events page at thepearlcollective.com/events to see our full schedule and find registration links to everything.